leaders are not embarrassed and have therefore failed to prioritize achieving self-sufficiency in domestic refining. In 2020, the country imported refined products worth $71.28 billion, but sold crude worth $27.7 trillion. Like his predecessors, Tinubu has misdiagnosed Nigeria's energy predicament. A major crude exporter with current production OPEC quota of 1.8 million barrels per day, it irrationally imports refined petroleum products because its refineries are comatose. Since May 29, Nigerians have suffered dire privations. Petrol price jumped from 187 naira per litre to 500 naira per litre in June. Prices soared to between 568 naira per litre and 617 naira per litre in July on the back of higher crude oil prices. Conceivably, as crude prices rally in the global market, petrol will cost more locally because the naira exchange rate has spiked astronomically. Hardship is biting as the economy goes south, headlined by factory closures, more job losses, and greater poverty. Reports across the country indicate many vehicle owners are abandoning them at home to use public transportation, and many other commuters trekking as transport fares skyrocket. Inflation vaulted from 22.41% in May to 22.79% in June. Food inflation rose to 25.25%. Tinubu, a former oil sector executive, should realize that the real catastrophe is Nigeria's dependence on refined petroleum products. Therefore, subsidy removal does not address the root of the problem or save the country the expense of costly imports and inescapably high prices. And the editor, in concluding, is saying Nigeria's 4 state-owned refineries, 2 in Port Harcourt and 1 in each in Warri and Kaduna, with a combined nameplate capacity of 145,000 per barrel a day, will in competent private hands help meet domestic needs. Inexplicably, the NNPC can dam our ground, forcing reliance on import and worse, crowding out private investment. The editor said Tinubu, who famously referred to the NNPC as a federal government ATM for lavishing the country's hard-earned resources in 2014 when in opposition, should implement comprehensive reforms of the company without delay. And in also concluding, finally, the editor said government should stop being a regulator and at the same time a player in the downstream. Its stakes in petrol retailing should be auctioned to private investors. The NNPC should sell its idle product depots and become strictly a lean, efficient holding investment company. We hope that this particular advice coming from the editor will be quite instructive, especially for the government of the day, looking at the dire consequences of removal of petrol subsidy in Nigeria. There's been so much development, and it's great to have you join us on the program this morning. But before we delve into our analysis proper and go into the nitty-gritty of our discussions, there have been a number of developments in the course of the week which we have been keeping tab on. And of course, these developing stories have been in our bulletins. But then let's recap a little bit, especially job racketeering within the public sector. There was a revelation in the course of the week which appears to be very alarming. What goes on in some of the parastatals and agencies of government is something that you can't even mouth. You can't even believe it. In an economy where everybody is crying, you still have people paying out so much millions of naira just to get a job that is not even available for people who are qualified. Now, some people have to pass the back door to pay huge amount of monies, and at the end of the day being swindled by officials of government who should know better. And of course, that takes us to the Federal Character Commission, where we actually take this insert. And this particular revelation happened at the House of Representatives, where you have screaming evidence coming out and denial outrightly also falling or coming back to back with the realities that we saw or the facts that were heard at the House hearing on the job racketeering within the Federal Character Commission. Let's take a listen to this.
About 12 o'clock, the chairman was physically still in the office.
I want to align myself and confirm that Around 12 o'clock, when I left the office to the National Assembly, the chairman of the commission, Moyiba Dankaka, Farida Dankaka, was in the office.
These are our usual excuse for various committees that have invited her. I should be on record. If she wants to collect 10% of employment from MDAs, he sees that the chief executive must come one-on-one with her. Why is she not here?
Everything in the commission is run under the table and with serious opaqueness and no transparency, and Nigerians are not being represented. So to this effect, we have come with all our efforts to redirect the commission to doing things right, and the rebuff of the chairman in this regard.
All the UCMDs, what I mean is that the NIMASA, the CBN, the DSS, all the highly paid agency, she's the chairman, she's the member, she's the secretary of all those committees.
All of them, they are always in my office. But what they wanted me to do, I told them I cannot do it. I'm a very quiet person. And I keep certain secrets as a secretary chairman. Even if I'm not here, I have to just swallow certain things and leave everything in the hands of God. Before I came to this place, they were selling slots. The place is like a market. And you can find that for people that live in Abuja if I'm lying.
The Shehu is the one that brought people. So many people, like almost 25 of them. One will pay 1 million, the other will pay 1.5 million, all to my personal account. All to my personal account, sir. Yes. My account number, that's an EcoBank account number. After which, she instructed me to give her the cash, all in cash installments. There's no transfer, there's nothing, just for me to withdraw through POS, from this POS to that POS, cash installment.
My brothers, Nuruddin Emiaro and Abdulrazak Emiaro, paid the sum of 2 million naira to Badamasi A. Jalo's account on 2nd August 2022.
The HR confirmed to us that our appointments are genuine. They are from the chairman. We should just go, you communicate to us. So before they cleverly took our appointment letters from us, and they promised to regularize us, that we should be patient.
I've not in my life asked him to collect. I don't even know the secretary. I don't know the driver. I don't know the driver that they are talking about. I've never set eyes on the driver.
See,
Quran is here. I've never in my life.
Stand up and scream.
It's here. Ask him to give me 1 naira. It's here. All what he does for me is when we are going to the airport, he buy ticket for me. He said he comes to my house to give money. He does not come to my house to give money. I swear with Almighty God and with this Quran. I got this Quran from the secretary. He brought it to this place. Thank God the secretary brought this Quran to this place. If I ever collect 1 naira from this Kolo, may Almighty destroy what I've worked for. If I ever in my life ask him to go and collect 1 naira from anybody, whatever I'm looking for, with this Quran, may it destroy me. I'm a Muslim.
This is just one thing. Racketeering in what? Federal character. We are not talking about slot in other agencies. So please leave this thing. Don't, and I appeal. Just like I equally have emotions. I will see the truth, but you see someone saying lies. I have to tolerate it as a chairman. So you that are observers too need to tolerate some certain things. Don't talk by gesture, trying to determine to preempt the outcome of this investigation. We are not going to allow that.
All right, you heard there the committee sitting in the House of Representatives trying to find facts into what has been going on within the Federal Character Commission, looking at job racketeering. And now one of the panelists is already standing by from Kenya. And of course, he's Professor Remy Ayede. But before I bring him on board, we have to pay some bills right about now. Prof, good morning. Hello, good morning, Prof.
Hello, good morning, Prof.
Yeah, good morning.
All right, Prof, we'll come back to you. We want to quickly pay some bills. All right, please go ahead.
32 FM, 94.9.
I'm living the life because I get Tizeti. Yes, Nigeria's most affordable internet service provider, Tizeti Network Limited, is now live in Ibadan. Oh yes, Ibadan residents can now enjoy our truly unlimited internet service too. Tizeti prides itself on providing the lowest cost of unlimited internet access to residential and small business customers. You can now browse, stream, and game 24/7 at an amazing speed, and with an uncapped data plan, connect to Tizeti's fast unlimited internet service for just 12,500 naira only per month. What more? Visit wifi.com.ng/OYO to sign up or call 012298-786 or send email to internet@wifi.com.ng to get started now. Unlimited internet.
Veneto cleanser ló ń jẹ́ o. Veneto cleanser ló ń jẹ́ o. Ojú rẹ̀ ṣàǹjọ̀lọ̀ lójoojúmọ́ kí làṣírí ẹ wà rí. Veneto cleanser ni. Já mi sí ọ̀rẹ́. Veneto cleanser. Egbògi àtẹ́jẹ̀ṣe tí bádọ̀tí ara wọ̀ yá ìjà rẹ̀ wọ́n mọ́lẹ̀ ṣe wọ́n yẹbẹyẹbẹ. Inú tó ń kú tó ń dàrú gbòdògbòdò. Kò bára rẹ̀ èrí inú ẹ̀jẹ̀. Amọ̀nà ti dé o. Veneto cleanser. Egbògi àtẹ́jẹ̀ṣe tí a fi ewé àti egbò ṣe ní ọ̀nà tìgbàlódé. NAFDAC Fòǹtẹ̀lù ME1 Nigeria Limited ni wọ́n gbé Veneto cleanser jáde. A wà ní nọ́mbà 17 Ọba Akínyẹlé off Adeogun Street, Aláàfin Avenue, Olúyọ̀lé Estate, Ring Road, Ìbàdàn. Telephone 08034051533. Fún títà àti rírà, ìwọ náà darapọ̀ mọ́ wa. Veneton cleanser, àmọ̀tẹ́kùn egbòogi tí ń ya gbogbo kòkòrò inú ẹ̀jẹ̀ wẹ́lẹ́wẹ́lẹ́.
Tẹ̀lẹ̀tì G property ìyẹn Orange Park and Garden tó wà ládojúkọ Ìdó police station lójú ọ̀nà ológun ẹ̀rú ń bàdàn sí ń tà pẹ̀lú àwọn àǹfààní aláìlẹ́gbẹ́ tó ń bẹ lórí ẹ̀. Perimeter fencing, iná ọba ti dórí ilẹ̀, ètò ààbò tó péye. Orange Park and Garden ìrìn ìṣẹ́jú 15 ní sí Ẹlẹ́yẹlé, ìrìn ìṣẹ́jú 7 ní sírèlúwé tó ń bọ̀ láti ìlú Èkó. Àwọn ọlọ́gbọ́n èèyàn ti ń ralẹ̀ wọ́n ti ń bá iṣẹ́ ilé kíkọ́ wọn lọ ní Orange Park and Garden. Ẹ̀yin náà lo àǹfààní ẹ máa bọ̀ lọ́fíìsì Tẹ̀lẹ̀tì G tó wà lẹ́yìn GTB Bank Ajibade bus stop lójú ọ̀nà Sango sí Mọ́kọ́lá Ìbàdàn. Kẹ́ ẹ wá ra fọ́ọ̀mù 10,000 naira. Tẹ́ ẹ bá ti dẹ́pọ́sìtì 200,000 nínú 1 million naira. Láàárín 24 hours la máa ṣàlókéṣàn yìí. Fẹ́kùnrẹ́rì àlàyé ẹ máa pè 08078748176 tàbí 08062431303. Let's G Property. Ẹ wá dòó nílé o.
Wá mọ bó ṣe ń lọ.
Lágbo eré ìdárayá nílẹ̀ yìí àti nílẹ̀ òkèèrè.
Ẹ máa gbọ́ Sporting Crystal àtàwọn olùkú rẹ̀.
Láago 5 sí 6 àrọ̀lẹ́ lójoojúmọ́.
Àtàgò 1 sí 3 ọ̀sán lọ́jọ́ àbámẹ́ta. Ẹ gbọ́dọ̀ míì sí ẹ̀.
Ege.
You're listening to 32 FM 94.9.
Just because you do not take an interest in politics doesn't mean politics won't take an interest in you.
The funds spent were properly spent because we got them from intervention funds.
Only you waka come. There is God.
I don't know which party my wife belongs to, but she belongs to my kitchen and my living room and the other room.
Stay in tune with politics on 32 FM 94.9.
All right, you're welcome back. In case you're just joining us, this is the Podium. It's coming to you from your laughter dial, 32 FM 94.9. And of course, I have to bring in our panelists this morning to do a little bit of discussions on the job racketeering, especially within the Federal Character Commission. And I want to start off this very quickly by referring to what John F. Kennedy once said. And his quote said, "We, the people, are the boss, and we will get the kind of political leadership, be it good or bad, that we demand and deserve." Is it the case in Nigeria? Of course, we have Professor Remi Ayede, who is actually on with us this morning, virtually from Kenya. And We also have Barrister Yomi Ogunlola, who is already seated in the studios. I don't know if we have Prof because I prompted him earlier. Do we have Prof now to see if we can actually take him on? Hello, Prof. Can you hear me?
And good morning to our listeners.
All right, Prof. Okay, we're actually getting feedback. In case you are hearing me, Prof, you need to look at your device. Maybe we'll have to switch you off and switch you back on to see if we can get rid of that feedback we're getting from your end. All right, let me move over to Barrister here. Barrister, we looked at what has been happening within the FCC and the job being done by the House of Representatives to actually look at the rot within the FCC itself and the kind of monies that Nigerians have to pay just for them to get a job. What do we make sense out of this, especially with what John F. Kennedy said with his political quote itself?
Yes, thank you very much, Gbolabo. First, let me say a wonderful Saturday morning to our listener. And I also want to, I know you have not introduced him yet. We have a very wonderful man in the studio with us. When Gbolabo introduces him, you'll get to know him better. So wonderful to be here. Now, Gbolabo, it is really disconcerting. I think that's the best word I can use. We are being taken deeper and deeper into the labyrinth of hopelessness, of helplessness, of servitude, and a presage for the future. And why do I say that? Because we keep falling into the same pit over and over and over again. You remember was it immigration then? Yeah. You know, where people were also buying slots and quite a number of Nigerians died. Yeah. Well, what we have seen in this country is not peculiar to FCC. We all know that it has always been the case in almost all of the MDAs. You have MDAs that get budgets approved by the legislature every year. Sometimes for them to even get the budget, we know what goes on behind the curtain.
Right.
You know, senators demanding for payment upfront to approve their budgets. And that being said, how many of them make returns at the end of the year? You know, currently, the Corporate Affairs Commission has come out with a new policy. Several companies will be struck off the roll. Why? Because they have not been making returns over the years. So those companies that have not been performing are going to be removed from the list of companies in Nigeria. What about the MDAs? Many of them don't make returns at the end of the year. They get money, they spend as they want, no accountability, no transparency, you know, and no consequences for their actions. I think what is happening right now is not only an indictment on FCC, it is a big indictment on the legislature because they are imbued with powers of oversight. It must be their failure that things like this are happening in the MDAs and escaping their notice. So it's a real big indictment, you know, but I am not surprised. I am not surprised at all.
But if you look at what the chairman of the commission is saying, she's outrightly denying all of the allegations. Is it possible that all the commissioners will lie against her?
Gbolabo.
And for what we are seeing...
Gbolabo. Yeah. You see, one thing I have come to understand about Nigeria is the moment you hold yourself out to be a public officer, to hold a public office, the very first lesson you must learn is how to lie. Yeah. You must learn that. You really must, because it really starts from the top. Our leaders are lying to us. They make promises they never fulfill, and they go without consequences. So what do you expect? Lying is a part of you know, the constitution of government in this country, and that's the truth. So I am not surprised, you know, about what is going on in FCC. We have always known that goes on until my brother at JAMB and Ahmed Ali showed to Nigerians that our MDAs or government corporations or whatever you call them can make money. We never knew that was possible because they never make returns. They make, there's something that goes on. When they budget, say, 300 billion for FCC in a year, if FCC spends 200 billion, it is expected.
The unspent budget.
But do you know what they do? When it is about 3 or 4 weeks to the end of the year, they will go this expenditure spree, buying what they don't need just to steal the money. We all know these things are happening. We all know. So,
all right, let's go back to Professor Ayede here. I don't know if you have him back. Professor, okay, we have to get him back. I know it's a little bit work calling all the way from Kenya. Hello, Prof. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly. Good morning.
All right, fantastic. This is much better. Okay, Prof, you actually listened to the discussion.
Can you come again?
Did you get us the discussion so far on the FCC job racketeering and how much more the House of Representatives is looking into some of the revelations and facts coming out, people paying millions of naira just to obtain fake jobs that they never got?
Yeah, somebody described it as the federal character without character.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's amazing the kind of deal that is going on there. But of course, those of us who are working with government are aware of some of these challenges. Even within the university system, we face some of those challenges because when you want to do appointment, they have to come and sit in to be sure that those who are appointed reflect the federal character of the country. And usually during that process, they will be asking for slots. And if you don't, if you're not available to give them slots, you might as well end up without being able to appoint anybody. So if you go to many universities, federal universities, particularly in point of reference, you'll find that they have had a very raw deal with those regulatory bodies. And it's important that the National Assembly take up the issue very well because, as you know, there will be the drama in the floor of the House. And then at the end of the day, nothing happens. We have seen that with the case of Pandey of the NDDC. And now we know that even the current Senate president was a prime actor in that incident. Now he's sitting in Abuja as Senate president. So it's really unfortunate. I'm not sure anything significant is likely to come out of this. But I think Nigerians should rise up to defend public institutions against these marauding individuals. They should pressure the National Assembly and the relevant body to ensure that the issue is investigated thoroughly, and then those who are found guilty should face the wrath of the law.
All right,
Until
Prof.
we
Okay.
do that, yeah.
Yes, I wanted to quickly add this before we go on to our guests. And this is from Omotayo Oluwarotimi Onobamire. She said she swore by the Quran. People swear by the Quran and by the Bible in Nigeria. Yet where they do not swear by the Quran or by the Bible in other country, everything works. Does that resonate with you? Because obviously countries that do not have all of these instances of people swearing by their faith, things are working. That's what Omotayo Oluwarotimi Onobamire is saying here.
Absolutely. You know, we did a study on the relationship between religion and corruption some time ago with the University of Birmingham. I think I was in a team from NISA and working with the University of Birmingham. And we realized that corruption, religion, of course, is supposed to be a source of a prescription in terms of morality. And if you know the famous 10 Commandments of Christianity and the Torah of Judaism, and then, of course, we also have similar provisions in the Quran, you would think that because Nigerians espouse this religion, those rules and commandments will affect the way they behave. What we found out is that it is even to the contrary. that if you are the most immoral person and you have a lot of money and you can contribute it to church, they are likely to give you a seat in the front row. And if you are the most excellent person and you have no money, you may not find recognition within any congregation. So it's important for us to know that the most religious countries are not necessarily the most moral. And then if you also look at the Pew researches that have been done for many years about human values, you'll find that the most religious country, which they describe as religiosity, does not correspond to uprightness, anti-corruption, or even good moral behavior. So religion, as somebody said in the floor of the house, it's just an emotional thing and for Nigerians, and people should not, on the basis of religious sentiment, think that people are moral because they will the Quran or will the Bible.
All right.
It reminds me of a philosopher who said some time ago in the Treatise on Natural Religion, that's David Hume, that in the most religious people you find the highest form of wickedness. So we need to take caution when people wield religion as an evidence that they are upright.
All right, Prof. Thank you so much for that. Okay, those are the panelists' opinion and, of course, how much more they look at this particular issue. But we'll delve into our discussions this morning. Let me quickly introduce our guest. We have Dr. Bafemi Jegede. He's a research fellow, University of Beirut, Germany, and also a senior research fellow, Institute of African Studies, University of Ibadan. He's an author and a public commentator. It's good to have you join us this morning, sir.
It's a great honor. It's a great honor.
All right, we have to take this one from the National Assembly, and of course it has to do with the ministerial nominee. We saw a number of drama that happened at the National Assembly at the screening of Festus Keyamo, and how much more they've been public controversy to look at some of this screening process. Some of them have now become minister designates. But then, does that change the fact that a number of Nigerians have cried war about some of these nominees and how much more they shouldn't even be on the list? But let's take a listen to this and we'll be back shortly.
But what really happened? At a point, we wanted to carry out our responsibility, because if some people can use the instrumentality of law, which they find themselves within the confines of their own authority, to advance for all their justices, why can't we use the instrumentality of the legislature to support our people and help the populace, which we represent? Then, at that point, we invited the nominee, because this thing has been a subject of controversy and public debate, which I don't know. We wanted to know and give him fair hearing. Please tell us, because it's now within our own confines authority to know what happened to our constituents. Say, please come and tell us what really happened. What is the structure? What are the indices you are using to carry out these things? Because our people will hold us responsible and accountable. And when he was invited, what we are talking about is a 52 billion naira appropriation, and the right of appropriation resides on the legislature. That is our right. And I know quite well that the right of oversight resides on us, because we have to hold you accountable for whatever thing we appropriate to you. It is our right. And when he was invited, he expressly told us, to the public, that we want to hijack his role, that we want to blackmail us, that we are corrupt, that we want to hijack his role. And I know that he midwifed the process. Nobody's against that. He midwifed the process, and this falls within his own area of operation as the junior minister for labor and employment. Highly welcomed. And not only that, he went as far as in the public line to say that when he was asked, which indices did you use to gain this? He said, in quote, "They are not from the moon." That was too arrogant to answer Nigerians that way. Because we're talking about what we support and help our people. That is why we are here. Anything outside that, I'll walk away from this chamber. My interest, your interest, and the interest of everybody is our people. That is why we are here. Not whatever thing any person is saying. And today, we need to find out, Mr. Senate President. Well, nobody is stopping him from being cleared. No. And I'm happy the way the president has sent so many people, great people here. We have questioned them passed through the screening, wonderful people, and we're ready. As much as they are ready to work with the system, we are ready to clear them. But not on the grounds of putting something under the table, not granting some people fair hearing, because I would like us to grant him fair hearing since he has been running away from it, for Nigerians to know what really happened. Because I wouldn't like any person to be holding that, because this thing has been subject of debate here and there. What happened to the 52 billion? What happened to the... But he is here, and it's our responsibility to find out. So, Mr. President of the Senate, I'm of the opinion so strongly that, and I know quite well, that the right of oversight resides on us, because we have to hold you accountable for whatever thing we appropriate to you. It is our right. And when
And that's a recap of what happened during the screening, especially the eye-dotting screening of Festus Keyamo, who was the former Minister of State for Labor and Productivity under the Buhari government. He's been a very controversial figure even towards the emergence of the present administration. But then I would like to start off with our guest this morning by saying that there was a lot of high expectation from President Bola Tinubu on the expected quality of his cabinet members. Now that the nominations have been done, what do you make out of them? What is the thing we make of them here?
Yeah, I mean, that's quite interesting. It is important for us to begin to ask the right questions. You know, we do a lot of analysis. We are so analytically minded in Nigeria, really. But we don't seem to be asking the right question. Why should we be asking, or why should we be asking ourselves this time? Are we asking the right questions? The reason is because we have been in this conundrum for many years, even during the military, and now we have democracy. We have so much expectations. We expected that about 20 years of democracy in Nigeria, we are supposed to be near a kind of Eldorado, stability, economic, political stability. But the reverse is the case. So why? Because we are not asking the right question. And the right question is, why are we still in this situation? What exactly is the problem? And we are being too individualistic. We point at people, Keyamo, Tinubu, all this. These are just human beings who occupy positions. They are not supposed to be there forever. The position is always the entity, the reality that we relate with, not the person. Why am I saying all this? Because whoever gets there does not seem to know what to do at any point, or does not seem to know how to, address questions and solve problems. Then I ask myself sometimes, imagine that I'm put into any position in Nigeria as a minister or as whatever. I tell you unequivocally, it will be impossible for me to do well. Impossible for me to do well. I don't think I'm better than all those who are in positions. Why is it impossible for me to do well? It is impossible because the system allows me not to do well. The system does not allow me to do well at all. Why? That is the essence of system. System is to enable you to work within a specific framework or template. Why should you work within a template? It's because you are a human being. The whole essence of governance is to checkmate the excess of human being. That is, change human beings from the state of nature. What Thomas Hobbes said, human being is nasty, is brutish, is all those things. When we understand this, the whole essence of law is to checkmate human being. So the question here, therefore, the point therefore here is that it looks like our laws are not effective. It looks like our systems are not properly, done or coordinated or established. So we must begin to ask questions. We must go into the root. We must ask questions instead of blaming the person, like the chairman of the federal character. Instead of blaming her, we should ask, why should she? What are those factors that triggered, that enabled him or made it possible for her to do what she has done? That, for me, is a more fundamental question.
You're saying that Keyamo is not the problem here, but the
At
system.
all, the system.
Who created Keyamo?
No. The system has been there. The system does not create anybody. The system makes all of us vulnerable. It's about vulnerability. The system creates all of us.
All right, I'll bring in the panelists here, but then let me also tell our listeners that you can also jump on our socials. We are there live on Facebook and also on YouTube, 32 FM 949 Ibadan. Of course, we'll have Barrister Ogunlola coming in right about now, but then we have to pay this bill. I've been giving this notice. All right, we'll pay this bill and we'll be back with the panelists also engaging in this conversation.
You're listening to 32 FM 94.9.
ṣó o ti gbọ́ rí ṣó o ti dámọ̀ ṣó o dẹ̀ tún ti tọ̀ wò. bẹ́ẹ̀ ni Bex Premium Supermarket ilé ìtajà gbàlódé tó fakọyọ ju àwọn akẹgbẹ́ ẹ lọ nínú kátajà tó jójúlówó. bẹ́ẹ̀ ni kò sóhun tẹ́ ẹ fẹ́ rà tẹ́ ẹ ní rírà ní Bex Supermarket. gbogbo àwọn tó ń jẹ̀gbà ládùn búrẹ́dì wa náà sọ pé kò lẹ́lẹ́gbẹ́. mélòó ni kákà nínú eyín adípèlé. pabambarì tún ni ẹ̀dínwó tó wà lórí àwọn ọjà wa. tẹ́ ẹ lè rí níbòmíì àfi ní Bex Supermarket. túgbọ́ tuntun tó bá ti ní reward card Bex lọ́wọ́. ìyẹn gangan ló tó fi lè rajà lẹ́dínwó jùlọ. tún gbà kan sí i rajà níbikíbi tó bá wà ká deliver fún ẹ láàrin ìṣẹ́jú àyá. ṣé wọn náà ti wá rí pọ́pọ̀ báyìí díẹ̀ gan nìyẹn tí gbogbo àwọn èèyàn tán já sí i tán fi yan Bex Premium Supermarket láàyò. a wà ní adjacent Aliwo Central Mosque off NTA Junction Basharun Road bus stop gate Ìbàdàn. ẹ tún lè pè wá sórí aago 08163659192. Bex Premium Supermarket gbogbo ìgbà tẹ́ ẹ bá ti ń wá lẹ́ẹ̀ máa gbẹ̀bùn.
For the top 10 banging songs across Nigeria,
top 10 super songs across Africa.
The Top 10 Countdown is your show.
Saturdays 12 to 1 p.m. with Danica and King Kenny.
Ìmọ̀lẹ̀ dé òkùnkùn parada. Ojúlọ̀bára Aba capsule. Ojú ni ìmọ̀lẹ̀ ara. Èdùmàrè má gbòde ọ̀sán lọ́wọ́ wa. Àkànṣe gbòógì tá a fi mọ̀ ìjìnlẹ̀ ṣe fún ìtọ́jú ìmọ̀lẹ̀ tí ò mọ̀lẹ̀ kedere. Tàbí tó ń wò báyìí. Ojúlọ̀bára Aba capsule. Egbògi oníkóró ni NAFDAC ìlú ló ń tẹ̀ gbà. Authentic Clear Vision ló ṣe é. Ó wà ní chemist àti pharmacy stores lágbègbè rẹ̀. Ẹ tún lè ríra lọ́fíìsì Authentic Clear Vision. Tó wà business complex. Lẹ́gbẹ̀ẹ́ Amidu Ajibade shopping complex gate Ìbàdàn. Àǹfààní ńlá wà fún alágbàtà tó ń kó ní pálípálí.
081-4254-3127. 081-4254-3127.
Ojúlọ̀bára Aba capsule. Tí o bá sí àyípadà bó o ṣe fẹ́ tètè lọ rí dókítà rẹ o.
Ojúlọ̀bára Aba capsule ilé iṣẹ́ Authentic Clear Vision ló gbé jáde.
ṣẹ̀mí bí olóògùn ọ̀rẹ́.
ìjà òdọ́là lètò tó yanjú àwọ̀.
láàrin mùtúmùwà.
tóbi lọ́ba ògúnṣínà wọ̀kìlúmọ̀ látọ́kùn ètò.
láago mọ́kànlá àárọ̀ lọ́jọ́ ẹtì àti àbámẹ́ta.
32 FM 94.9.
Safa peli sizo simnyama. Iwasafa.
All right, you're welcome back, and it's still the podium on 32 FM 94.9, and of course we bring in Barrister Yomi Ogunlola here. Barrister, you listen to the guest. He's talking about systemic failure rather than individual personality here.
Yes, well, I think to an extent, I want to agree, with our guest. After all, man is realized within society, but the point of disagreement will be this. Even within a failing nation, we have people who are succeeding, don't we? Now, you just played Darlington Nwokocha's clip at the National Assembly, the Senate, when he chose to question what he felt was wrong about an individual's nomination at a time when majority were asking him to take a bow and go. We have also seen the case of Oloyede, the man who heads JAMB, and how within a failing society, within corruption, he has been able to establish integrity, honesty, transparency, and accountability. Even within a failing nation, within corruption, we saw what Ahmed Ali of the Nigerian Customs was also able to do. So, my question to the guest is, if we are going to fix a failing system, is it not from within, or is he advocating a without settlement or solution to the problems we're having?
Sorry, that's over to you, Doctor.
Thank you very much. Very interesting question, really. We can talk from now forever. We still keep talking until we address the system. We cannot pick one or two individuals within a system like this and mark ourselves as having passed. And even the question is, it is happening everywhere. Even the JAMB you are talking about, or the Ahmed of, it is happening right there in JAMB. But the volumes are different. The time of Ojayin was so bad, but the time of this man, Ololede, is better. It does not mean that JAMB is not, there's no corruption in JAMB at all. Please rule that one out. And does not even mean that there's no corruption in customs. But the volumes are different. So that's why I think that we should begin to consider, where we are coming from. How, before this system came into being, how was it? Because in a digital world, it will be made impossible. The question is how to make it impossible for you to corrupt, to be corrupt. That is the issue we must address. How will I, as a person, be prevented from being corrupt? Maybe as the chairman of federal character. It is not just telling me to believe in God, to be morally upright, to be praying for me. No way. You have to make it impossible for me. If you make it easy for me to steal money, I will steal money.
Now the question, you are not addressing that.
Okay, sir.
How then do we do it? Do we wait for the Americans or the Russians to colonize us?
Okay, sir.
Or how do we, how and who will do it for us?
How to do it here is, we will consider seriously restructuring. And we will consider, in considering restructuring, we will consider devolution of power. Because the president has so much power that he is not able to manage.
And in a situation where they are profiting from the mess,
exactly,
and they refuse to do that.
Exactly. So systemically, we restructure the nation. In fact, we devolve power close to the people.
What I am saying now is this. I do agree with you. I am on all fours with you that perhaps if we restructure, we may be maybe not completely eliminating corruption and all of those vices, but at least minimizing them. Yes. But the question I am asking is, when those people who have all the powers to so do are the beneficiaries of the rot, then who bails us out? Should we wait for the soldiers to take over government?
No, sir. We can do it ourselves.
How?
We must be able to, the people must design, in fact, this is, to me, our democratic architecture is too dictatorial. We don't even, the people are actually, completely removed from the whole
So
system.
If the people are removed, because the only participation of people in the government right now is their elections. Even their election, exactly, even during the election, their votes don't count.
Yeah.
So, and then all the coercive powers of state are in the hands of those who are benefiting. How then can the people do it?
Let the conversation be centered around the issue of restructuring everywhere. Let the noise be made to the sky. In fact, the restructuring must be so total to the extent that the chairman of local government will have so much power. and they will be made accountable to the people.
You still haven't answered my question.
That's not the way.
No, because you see, I am trying to pin you down to a very practical solution.
Yeah.
Now, yes, the people have always been there. We screamed when Abacha was there. We screamed when Buhari was there.
We have never been there.
We are screaming right now.
No, sir. We have never been there. And we have not properly strategically designed how to address our problem as a people.
Okay, let's look at it this way. How can the people take positive steps even when the ones in government are unwilling? What should the people do? Because we saw what happened with EndSARS.
Interesting. Do you know that even the military government was unwilling to hand over to elected people? But the people insisted. You can imagine how many years it took us to win the war against militocracy here. The people took it upon themselves.
Are you sure it is the people, or America came with a solution for us?
No, the people. I mean, we knew what great men do. We remembered how people really fought. The 1983 election saga and all the rest of them. And I tell you the truth, if now the people are able to design for themselves, we have civil society organizations, we have media outfits, we have intellectuals and people that are progressive. If the conversation continues and it gets thicker and thicker by the day, if there are seminars, conferences, if there are workshops, all kinds of fora that will be designed to address the question of restructuring, and that is the way to make government accountable.
If we go back to, I'm sorry, Gbolabo. Okay, I see you are actually busy.
Yes, let's also
Prof.
look at Prof here. Let's bring Prof in.
Okay.
Prof, do we have you now? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, this better. All right, Prof, you've been listening to the conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, so where do you come in now? He's talking about systemic failure, and of course, Barrister is looking at it from this angle that are you saying that other instances you have people coming from another part of the world to solve our own problems, our own indigenous problems for us? How do we tackle this? Those are some of the things that Barrister has actually asked. Where do we have you on this?
I think there's some confusion in the statement put forward. Is because it's as if they are calling for recolonization of Nigeria. And the big question they have not answered is the question of responsibility. Are they saying that Nigerians are not responsible for what is happening in Nigeria? Is it that the system or the rules which are put in place in order to restrain bad behavior, are they not made by Nigerians? And if the rules are not working, is it not the responsibility of Nigerians to change it? Now, if Keyamo or the president has taken a decision while in office, why will you blame the system rather than blaming the president? The president has powers to alter the system, if it's not working well, into a more effective system. That is why we have leadership. That is why we have responsibility. That's why when people misbehave, they have to go to jail. You can't say because the system is bad, therefore armed robbers can do what they like. Just as presidents also are supposed to be responsible for improving the life and the working of the system in Nigeria. So I don't agree with them at all. I think what they have done is to strip the president and his team of responsibility, made by the whole idea of whether it's democracy or governance, is really that people are put in functional positions to perform certain tasks with consequences for the life chances and livelihood of individuals, citizens of the society. So if they can't make positive change, then we have to take them to hold them to account. We have to ask them to take responsibility for failure. So blaming the system or giving an alibi for bad behavior or irresponsible conduct, I think is missing the point. And that's why we ask the question: who is responsible for taking decision? Is it the system or is it the president and his co? Who exercises political power?
All right, just to add to what, okay,
and
I think that is quite straightforward. And to add to what Prof has said, I would also add this question: should President Tinubu have even included Festus Keyamo on the ministerial list? Because a number of Nigerians feel he has little to offer. Just to add to what Prof has also asked.
Sincerely, I'm very, very eager to talk. I'm sorry. I tell you in all honesty, do we have leadership in Nigeria? Do we still have leaders, sir? Do we have people, when you say responsibility, who is responsible in Nigeria now? What is it that is happening in Aso Rock that reflects true leadership? If we have a leader in Nigeria, we will not be where we are today. And so the democracy, we say, is the government of the people.
Where is the principles of accountability?
It doesn't exist.
So how do we apply
sorry,
Gbolabo. It doesn't exist now.
Okay, sorry, Gbolabo. You saw that Prof came in with another dimension, and a very beautiful one at that. Prof, how you doing now? Make I even use this opportunity to greet you. He came in with from another perspective, and I think it tallies with my position. If you agree that there is a vacuum in leadership and the system has to be changed, now you are saying the people should take the lead. The people took the lead during the conference, and they came up with resolutions which included this restructuring and all that. But the findings of that body never saw the light of day. So where then are those people? What is the role of the people? How can the people who are powerless, who are bereft of the coercive instruments of state, effect the kind of changes that you're talking about?
Now, to also be more light to what barristers ask, he's talking about the principles of democracy. Now, the democracy actually gives the people the power to actually elect who their leaders are. But now, where is that power? Has it been sustained? Does the people have that power to decide? Because you're talking about the system and how much more the people have to take the bull by the horn. But now, if you look at all the processes that has been happening in the country itself, do the people have such power?
In democracy, people are not given power. People take power. Those who are
arbitrarily, or they have to use violence.
No way. In a strategic manner, the people's power has handed over to those who are elected into offices will always be mismanaged by those who hold this power. The people now have the responsibility. In fact, the responsibility of governance, in all honesty, or stability of a nation, should not hang on the hands of those who have elected offices.
Okay,
it should be on the people.
Let me. When you say the people, we have always said something from this end. That in Nigeria, we have a majority illiterate. And of course, what we practice here is universal adult suffrage, which gives that power, that so-called people's power, to people who don't even understand what it means. People who are willing to sell their votes for as little as a bowl of rice. I'm sure if there's to be an election today, some people will collect cups. Before they used to talk about bowls, some will readily collect cups of rice and cast their votes. So what I was saying is we have a people who are disempowered, if I can use that word, who have been because government, those who are in authority, who are benefiting from the rot, have not only monetized the process, they have weaponized ignorance, they have weaponized poverty to such an extent that people remain almost powerless. But with due respect, sir, just a minute more, with very few that were able to summon enough courage, like our wonderful children that came out in Lekki during #EndSARS, you saw the reaction of government towards them. So where is that power?
Look, in all honesty, we don't need many people to even get power for the people. The few intellectuals, the progressive-minded people, no matter how few they are powerful enough to mobilize the people to take power from oppressors.
The professors who are rigging elections for illiterates to rule?
I don't think so. I don't think professors are rigging elections. I've been part of electoral process, and I can say unequivocally that I never tried it.
I
never imagined it.
We will have some.
No, not only me. No, those who work with me. And those who came to vote, those that could be people that people are giving bribes. That wasn't my concern. But I made sure that we played by the rule. So the few intellectuals, the few faithful people, the patriotic people, and it doesn't have to be NSA kind of strategy. Just simple. Imagine that the NSA was just a kind of conference, all kinds of conferences, seminars, mobilizing and mainstreaming the people into the right governance. I tell you the truth, we can't get it on a plate of gold. It takes many years.
Okay, let me, because when we started this program, I said something about our people.
All right, Barrister, can we just bring Prof in here to actually give us a political...
When we talk about the different administration, we say Buhari's administration, Tinubu's administration. In other words, even the way we construe politics, we know that for every region, there's somebody who is responsible for what is going on. So why we now turn around and say it is not the person that you should hold to account? The person should not be responsible for what is going on within the system. I think that flies away, far away from the reality on the ground. This is Tinubu's administration. He begged us to vote for him. He had a program that is in place, some of which included changing the system that you are talking about. So that's why the Punch editorial points very strongly to the direction of the refinery. Say, Oga, you said you will do this thing, you will do this thing. You have removed subsidy. You have put Naira on the floor. These are policies done by President Tinubu, not Buhari.
This is not a new. This is not new, sir. This is not new. Buhari said a lot.
To bring about the change that we want.
They will always say one thing or the other, but they will never be able to abide by what they say. It is never abnormal for a person to want to assume a political office and tell you all kinds of lies. It's never abnormal. It is the people that we made it possible for him to achieve his goal.
But then I think the argument here, so that we don't drag this for too long, is that how does the people get empowered? Now, look at the poverty line in the country. The gap between the rich and the poor is very wide. Where does the people, the ordinary Nigerians, we are the voices of the people.
The people can never be empowered. The people can never be empowered.
How then do we close this gap?
People take power.
How do we do that?
I just told you about what they did with #EndSARS.
It's like that. It continues. That has come. It has ended.
Despite the killing of our children without reprisals.
These are prices people pay in search for democracy, good governance everywhere in the world. China did that.
In Africa, sir. Africa, sir. I have not seen anywhere where the voice of the people have, had any effect on governance. Which brings me to the next question I am going to ask. If it is made impossible for the people, going by the axiom that those who make peaceful change impossible open the gates for its alternative, which many times are violent, although the one we found in Niger is not violent, and I think they will be regretting it now. Now, is military coup an acceptable alternative where the people are bereft of, power or denied power?
Far from
to
it.
Effect change.
Far from it. Military coup can never be an alternative. It is the people's coup. People must form a coup against government that is anti-people.
Okay, are you saying, for instance, some people have been describing the emergence of this administration as one of the civilian coups? There is a footage that is going the rounds where Tinubu was telling them, Jagba, Jigbe, and run with it and all the rest of the stuff. And we all witnessed what happened during that election. Is that the idea of civilian coup?
The issue of power. No, people's, not civilian coup. People's coup. That is a whole, the people come together to take back the power because it's their own. It belongs to them.
They will be shot on the streets if they attempt it.
These are prices people pay all over the world.
All right.
Historically speaking.
We have to move on. Now, let's look at the 45 minutes. Okay, Prof, you want to come in? You want to say some things here?
I wanted to make some quick clarification that we are making very sweeping statements. For instance, assuming that nothing is working in the whole of Africa. All African countries are not at the same level. If you come to Kenya, for instance, they've never had any experience of coup. You go to Ghana, the performance of the policies are very far back and ahead of that of Nigeria. The system in Kenya is much more stable and organized than we have in Nigeria. So we must not assume that nothing works here. And when the policy of subsidy removal started in Kenya, there were a series of demonstrations against the government. And it was led by the opposition leader. Last week, General Obasanjo was here to broker some negotiation between the leader of the opposition and the government because they thought that these demonstrations were becoming too costly. Some people were killed during those demonstrations. So let us not assume that people are not rising up and that they are so disempowered that they don't take responsibility. Even in Nigeria, the labor movement demonstrated not too long ago. There are clips that show that yesterday or day before yesterday, there was demonstration in Port Harcourt. So let us not assume that the people are not talking. And that is why I made reference to the Punch editorial, which you read at the beginning of this program, that called the attention of the president to the refinery. So people are actually making effort. And the media is also making effort, drawing the attention of the government to all of those things. The question is, how do we really then force him to deal with this problem rather than planning with ECOWAS to go to fight a war in Niger? This president takes decision, and we have to hold him to account for it.
All right, there are a lot of factors here that is screaming, but then I want to refer back to the 1960 where we got our independence itself. Was Nigeria really programmed for an entity? Because it appears that you have the Southern Protectorate, you also have the Northern Protectorate. Amalgamation started in 1914, and we all have our differences. But then if you look at what political historians have said, as a matter of fact, they're saying that these are people who don't have common interest. You're forcing them together to live together in one accord. And we've been battling this for decades. And here we are today still talking about uncertainties and how much more our future looks bleak in the face of economic policies that does not bring in the searchlight of prosperity for us as a nation. Having said that, it actually takes me to this. It's just a backgrounder to this. A federal cabinet of 45 ministers designated, according to some critics, is a bloated team. In the face of Nigerian current economic struggle, do you agree with Tinubu's critic or think the president has acted rightly by actually doing this? Looking back historically, where we started from and where we are today, are we a people of common interest? You keep saying the people. Who are those people? Do they understand themselves? Do they believe that they are all Nigerians? Because I've heard some people say that there are more Igbos than Nigeria. There are more Yorubas than Nigeria. In that essence, then you keep saying the people has the right. When the people don't have a common force, we keep hearing, God bless America, because the people have one front. They believe that America must not die. But now when you have instances in Nigeria where individuals say the Igbo race must not die, the Yoruba race must not die, the Ibibios must have a voice, the Fulanis must have a stake. Now, which people are we talking about? Is it a divided house has been said cannot stand? So who are those people who's going to take the power? Now, the constitution that you talked about, has it been helpful? Since we had our constitution, we've been changing our constitution from the 1960 McPherson, and a lot of this constitution, it doesn't reflect the wishes and the prosperity of the people. And we complained Nigerians complained up till 1999. It's been amended over and over again, still not reflecting what the people want. Really, who are these people? Have they been empowered to begin to take the right choices? And from all what we've been saying, we want to cut the cost of governance. Are we acting right?
Thank you very much. Yeah. If we were forced together, we cannot be forced to separate. So if you want to separate, we have to separate by a kind of negotiation. Because forcing things together is easier than actually breaking things into pieces. So the problem of ethnicity did not exist until recently in Nigeria. Because we were really Nigerian. When I was in secondary school or primary school, we never knew Yoruba or Igbo or Hausa. We had a lot of Igbos in my school. So I think it is this political instability economic mishap that has generated all this, division. It's not only Igbo, even religion. People are Christian, people are Muslim, and there are tensions among all these people. So I think it is important to note that when we see ourselves as a people, what they call collective ownership, that's what I plan to call it, collectively owning we own Nigeria together. Collective responsibility. We are all collectively responsible. We are not going to be holding the president responsible only. We are all responsible. Everybody. And so
who appointed the 45 minister designate? Are we the people?
You see,
that is the choice of the president.
It is the people.
The people who are not united.
Exactly.
So how then do we blame the people?
The system allows. We are not blaming people. I'm not blaming people. I'm just stimulating people to their responsibility. I want us to realize that whoever takes political office has his own selfish agenda. Tinubu said he would take by force. That was not that way he could do it. It could be intimidating all of us to force us to vote for him.
Please permit me, Gbolabo, to come in here. I think, the trajectory of Gbolabo's interrogatory is this. When Buhari was in government, there were so many criticisms about, lopsided appointments, nepotism, and all whatnot. Today, those who are in the forefront of criticizing those appointments are in government. And they are in charge of the police, they are in charge of customs, they are in charge of immigration, they are in charge of the army, and so on and so forth. Now, it appears that the Yorubas are now paying back what they probably suffered during Buhari's administration.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, do you think if we go this way, there is any meaningful way, of changing?
We can,
because when the Igbo man comes,
he will take all the Igbos.
So where do we go?
We can move further.
Where do we go from it? Prof.
I actually want to come in. I think there's too many things on the pot, and it seems that we are confusing different matters. Because when Tinubu appointed, presented 48 and eventually 45 was cleared, the labor leaders asked him, is 45 not too many, including the age that you have? He said they should not consider it that way because they were thinking about cost of governance. He said they should consider it as him providing jobs for people. So let us not behave as if the president has not spoken about why he did what he has done. So the question then is, do we agree with him? Because the labor leader says, no, we don't agree with you. We want you to cut cost of governance. And the president is not doing so.
But
the president is responsible
Prof,
for that because the constitution asks him to appoint at most 37 because one from each state and one from Abuja.
No.
He has gone on to appoint 45.
No. Please permit me, Prof. That is not the position of the Constitution because I think, was it myself and Gbolabo or maybe on another program that I was on?
Yes.
The position of the Constitution is that the president must appoint at least one. At least one.
That's right.
So if he says at least one, it leaves open the opportunity of appointing more than one in a state.
Yeah, but it also means that if he appoints only one, he has not breached the Constitution.
Oh, definitely.
That's actually the point.
Yeah. So, but it also leaves. It also leaves. It also gives him. It also gives him a discretion. It also gives him a discretion to appoint more than one if the situation so demands.
I think we should ask why. Why was it made easy for him to appoint only his own people? Why is that the systems allow him to appoint only
his own people? I think that's not correct. He has not appointed only his own people.
No. Listen, Prof.
If you mean Yoruba.
Listen, Prof. Buhari appointed mainly his own people, and this time around,
not ministers.
As whatever in all offices or many offices. Even this time around, Tinubu is being accused of the same thing. I mean, clearly, he's been accused of the same thing.
If you don't have the complete statistics, it's always difficult to pursue that line of argument. They accuse Obasanjo of the same thing. Yeah. But he was strong enough to ask them to go and bring the list from the federal character. And when they brought the list, they discovered that the appointment was balanced. Nobody has done that kind of analysis for Buhari's own. So we need to be very careful what we take from the media. Because as he has argued, he didn't breach the Constitution in terms of those appointments for ministerial position. But for others, of course, we can see the visibility of certain people in important positions like NNPC, like the service chiefs and all of that. So that's
CBN
where we
and the rest
stand
of them.
against Buhari. But in a general picture, we don't have that general picture yet.
All right, I thought you were actually on a point of line talking about barrister here in terms of how much more the process has been transparent so far in bringing people to the table.
Yes, I think it is also what Prof, raised, with respect to the ministerial nominees. There appears to be a consensus now that Tinubu, the fault is not in Tinubu, the fault is in the Constitution. Because the Constitution says he must have at least one from each state, and leaves a discretion for him if he wants to.
He was not satisfied with one from each state because they gave him chance to appoint.
Because our boys, Prof, our boys are genuine.
Since Nigerians have been saying cut cost of governance, he's responsible to that extent.
Exactly, I do agree with you.
And that is wrong.
I do agree with you.
It is wrong for him to appoint many people so as to do who are influenced by his own aspirations. He wanted to appoint those who will do his bid. He considered those who have worked for him. It becomes Nigeria is taking like a personal industry. And that will not help our progress.
All right, Doctor, before we go ahead, I just want to prep your mind ahead because we have to go on this break. There is this accusation made by the new APC national chairman, Abdullahi Ganduje, that Dr. Miriam Shetty's name was smuggled into Kano State ministerial nomination list. Does it seem that Nigeria governance is still firming the grip of power brokers or godfathers there? Because you talked about favoritism. People who had worked for Tinubu are the ones finding themselves on the list itself. But now if you have this coming from the so-called the national chairman of APC saying some names were smuggled, what differences does it make from what we've been having in the past? But before we go into that, we have to pay some bills more. We'll be back shortly.
Stay tuned to 32 FM 94.9.
ẹni tó ṣàmìláì àánú ò ní yọwọ́ lọ́rọ̀ ẹ̀. ìrìn àjò ẹ̀mí tún yá sórílẹ̀-èdè Jọ́dánì àti Ísírẹ́lì pẹ̀lú Prophet Dr. Israel Ọládélé Ògúndípẹ̀ Unstoppable Genesis. ọ̀pọ̀ tó ti lọ tó ti bọ̀ pẹ̀lú You Fit Fly ló ń kọrin ọpẹ́. gbogbo ẹni tó wá ń jàrọ̀kọ̀ láti lọ àǹfààní tó ti dé o. ìrìn àjò ẹ̀mí eléyìí á tún ṣàrà ọ̀tọ̀. pẹ̀lú Prophet Dr. Israel Ọládélé Ògúndípẹ̀ Genesis Global àti ọ̀pọ̀ ìránṣẹ́ Ọlọ́run mìíràn bíi Ọládìméjì Image àti Àpèké Ọlá Òṣàjì Olúwakẹ́mi Sára. lájọ máa kọ́ wọ́n rìn. beginning from Wednesday 1st to 8th November 2023. It is a great opportunity for you to visit the site where Jesus Christ was baptized and the place where the chariot of fire took Elijah up, among other places mentioned in the Bible. àǹfààní eléyìí ẹ má jẹ́ kó fò yín rú o. ẹ yá tètè máa bọ̀ ní number 1 Adémọ́lá Abíọ́lá street off Baálẹ̀ Animation Road Dálẹ́mọ̀ Alákùkọ. For more enquiries please call 0705-5560-730 or 0802-3680-680. Another great holy pilgrimage to Israel and Jordan. Do not be left out.
àṣepamọ́ kan ò sí.
kedere ni gbogbo ẹ̀ lójú adẹ́dà.
ẹgbẹ́ láyé àṣàbò sórí ètò nǹkan ìkọ̀kọ̀.
láago 10 àbọ̀ àṣálẹ́ ní gbogbo ọjọ́ àbámẹ́ta sátidé.
àṣírí ìkọ̀kọ̀ kedere ni lójú adẹ́dà.
iṣẹ́ àgbẹ̀ níṣẹ́ ilé wa.
iṣẹ́ àgbẹ̀ níṣẹ́ àwọn baba wa lóòótọ́ àmọ́ lóde ìsẹ̀yìn ìlú ti yí orin ti chẹ́ǹjì. àtọmọdé àtàgbà kò sẹ́ni fẹ́ ṣiṣẹ́ àgbẹ̀ mọ́ ẹbí wọn sì kọ́ àìnímọ̀ àti àìlóye tó nípa iṣẹ́ àgbẹ̀ ló ń fa kùdé ìdí rèé tí ọmọ ẹlẹ́ran fi wá ń jẹ gungun tọ́rọ̀ bá wá rí báyìí ó níbi tá à ń gbé ka iléeṣẹ́ alálùbáríkà OOK Farms ti fọwọ́sowọ́pọ̀ pẹ̀lú iléeṣẹ́ aláyọ̀ 32 FM 94.9 láti ṣe àgbékalẹ̀ ètò àrà ọ̀tọ̀ tá a pè ní Awake with OOK Farms níbi tí àwọn àwòrò ṣàṣà nípa iṣẹ́ àgbẹ̀ yóò ti máa dá wa lẹ́kọ̀ọ́ gbà wá níyànjú ró wa lágbára nípa iṣẹ́ àgbẹ̀ àti bí a ti lè ṣe láṣejèrè lọ́nà tó bá ti òde òní mu ẹ darapọ̀ mọ́ ọmọ yín ọ̀rẹ́ yín Peter Ọlásùpọ̀ Captain P2 àti àwọn akọ́ṣẹ́mọṣẹ́ láti iléeṣẹ́ OOK Farms ní gbogbo ọjọ́ àbámẹ́ta sátidé láti aago 6 sí 7 ìrọ̀lẹ́ lórí ètò Awake with OOK Farms. jí má sùn lórí iṣẹ́ àgbẹ̀.
iṣẹ́ àgbẹ̀ ká ṣiṣẹ́ àgbẹ̀ ló lè.
lórí ètò òkè ìbàdàn lẹ́yìn tí máa pàdé
àwọn èèkàn aláṣeyọrí ọlọ́lá
tí ìbàdàn ti gbé ní tèmíládé àlòkò
yóò máa fọ̀rọ̀ jẹ̀wọ́ pẹ̀lú lórí òkè ìbàdàn.
òkè ìbàdàn
á gbè wá o.
You're listening to 32 FM 94.9.
Safa sapeli sizo simnyama. Safa.
All right, you're welcome back. In case you're just joining us, this is the Podium coming to you from your comic themed station, 32 FM 94.9. And of course, my name is Gbolabo, famous Cole. And our guest has been Dr. Bafemi Jegede. He's a senior research fellow, University of Ibadan. And of course, the University of Beirut, Germany. And is our guest this morning in the studios. We've been looking at certain development in terms of national importance, that is of national importance in Nigeria. And of course, our panelists too have been in the studio, Barrister Yomi Ogunlola and Professor Remi Ayede, all the way from Kenya, also are in the studios this morning. All right, before we went on that commercial break, Doctor, I was asking that Dr. Shetty's name, according to Ganduje, was smuggled into the Kano list. Now, does it make any moral sense at this time that we'll be discussing this, especially looking at the mantra of the APC? Who is deceiving who? You know, how does this happen? Because we felt, as a matter of fact, that this new government is a government that would set the tone for good leadership in the country. And if we start on this note, has anything changed?
Nothing has changed, actually. When Buhari assumed office, it was because we found Jonathan incapable. I mean, now we are regretting it. Buhari assumed office. We also found Buhari incapable. Tinubu has just resumed office. We have started to see problem in his methodology. Then we should now begin to ask ourselves the question of why. We should never be too happy or we should never rely on the statement of a politician. If they say there will be change, there will be this, we don't hold on to those statements. It is now time for us to begin to ask them fundamental questions. And as we ask those fundamental questions, we expect that we have fundamental answers to those questions.
Where is the podium for us to ask these questions, especially for Nigerians? Do we have the space to ask the question?
We are on the podium, interesting.
Obviously, we
are on the podium.
We're really talking in the real sense
you see,
of the people asking these questions.
You see, like ENSA is a test case, though it didn't achieve the desired goal. But if the entropy continues that way, and it does. I mean, Professor was talking about how the labor union and all the civil services are advancing argument. Interesting. But, it continues, and it looks like at one point we will get there. It is when we stop talking, when we stop holding meetings, when the media stop discussing these issues, that we are really in trouble. Interestingly, what is important is we increase the volume. We act faster. We open up Podium, where we'll be discussing national issues, and more importantly, we must have for ourselves a national agenda.
Is it not that we are missing the line here? Don't we have instructive laws that could address all of these instances? We've been talking about the FOA, the Freedom of Information Act. It's there. And now the government has that principle to tell us, to let us know what is happening within the system. It shouldn't take the people asking questions, because they've been talking about people going to ask questions. And that's why I asked, where is the podium? Where's the avenue? Elections were here. They were busy distributing bag of rice and gallons of palm oil and groundnut oil. And now you've brought the people over. The podium, the space for them to ask questions are not even there. Now you also have the law, which is also sacrosanct. The Freedom of Information Act is there. Why shouldn't the government make this available to the people? Must you do all of this process to get this far?
It is not enough to make law. Having constitution does not solve all problems. But making it impossible for people to do what is wrong is the real issue. You can have all kinds of policies. You must make it very, very impossible for somebody to do what is against the constitution.
Okay, I think I will come in here because where Gbolabo appears to be coming from, you really are not addressing it with due respect. Now, we embraced democracy. Democracy is supposed to be a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And for democracy to function effectively, there are some tenets that must be respected. For instance, that elections will be free and fair. In other words, elections will be credible. That's number one. All right? That the arms of government will be independent of one another, even though it allows for, very minor, possibilities of interaction between themselves. But basically, they are expected to be independent of one another. Then, in the art of governance, transparency, accountability, and good governance are the requirements. And finally, the judiciary. There must be a judiciary that is not only independent, but is capable of determining matters brought before it without fear or favor. All of these are the tenets expected to make democracy function. But they have been crippled in Nigeria, for instance.
Look, these are the talking, character of Nigerian people. We are not asking, how will these things be obeyed? Like the federal character, how will we can write anything down? How are we going to, make those things we have written active? And that, to me, is the fundamental question.
Who is going to do that?
The system.
How?
Barrister.
Okay,
I think
Prof is coming in.
Okay.
The guest has made very important points that we are overlooking.
Okay.
And it's important that we take note of that. Because he talks about us constantly debating, questioning, and raising issues. Because that's what happens after election. Once the election is over, whether good or fair or excellent, somebody has been elected and declared leader, and he's assumed office and is acting. Take, for instance, the way people rose up against his position and ECOWAS position on going to Niger. At the end of the day, the National Assembly say, we reject your request to go to war. So we can't close our eyes to some of these small wins and behave as if nothing has been achieved. If you look at the temperature of the debates around Nigeria, whether on social media, on traditional media, in all public spaces, you find that there's a groundswell of opposition to going to fight in Niger. And that is what galvanized the National Assembly to reject his request. So we must at least accept some win. If I look at the NSAS movement, we can't throw it away and say there was nothing
Prof,
achieved.
it still brings us to the... Let me just come in here, Prof. Prof, let me ask this question. Yes, you...
And that's the... So we mustn't say small wins are not important.
Yes, very important point, Prof. But let me just also ask this. Is there no instrumentality of the law? Why would Nigerians clamor? Now you have a process. Like in America, I'm sure for the Democrats, they have an ideology. For the Democrat, they have an ideology. For the Republican, you know how they deal with issues. Now we have a democracy under the APC. When we don't have a clean slate of leaders who are coming on board, who have clear mission. Now you have instances of dabbling in and out into things. And now Nigerians have to talk over everything. We talk about economic policies of the government. We talk about some of the military intervention of the government. Why would we have to talk about everything? Is it that we have people who don't know what they are supposed to do?
That's how it happens in our democracy. Okay. Even your representation of America is not very close to the reality, because if you look at America, people say America is united. Who says so? When there's racism, when there are different factions, when there are troops, a gang of people with different names, and like we have these Niger Delta militants, they are like that in the U.S. The Proud Boys. So we have the demonstration against the oppression of Black Lives Matter. So the whole idea of unity is not perfect in any country. The contestations in democracy is part of the live wire of democracy. It's an ongoing thing. Let us not interpret them as if they are negative things. If you don't challenge, if you don't oppose, if you don't demonstrate, then you will not get what you want. So because society is plural, there's no society where you have homogeneous people, not even in the United States. So it's in very exceptional cases that you have something close to homogeneity. So that is the situation here, and this contestation is the engine room of democracy. So after elections, this contestation must go on. And if you look at the whole argument about democracy, say the majority will have its way, but the minority will have its say. So we must continually allow minorities to have their say, allow minorities to have their way, but also there's rule of law, there's a moderation, there's a regard for individuals. So there are so many things that come into the package when we talk about democracy. So, and we need to treat democracy that way. We must continue to contest, and that's why I made that point that our guest has hit on a very important note, that we must not keep quiet, that we must expand the space where people can challenge, where people can ask questions, and all of that. And that is what I think you are talking about when you say, where is the podium? In other words, we have to create podium where it does not exist. And luckily for us, there are all kinds of means of doing that now, with social media, with internet, the Twitter. So the government will feel the pressure that we are putting on them, and then do policies that will favor Nigeria. And I think that's where we are not doing sufficiently from what the guest is saying, that we need to do more. And I agree with him completely.
Now, it's another thing. These are very critical points, but it's another thing for us to have a government that has a listening ear. Now, there have been a number of reports. I could still remember the Waste report. You also have the Confab report. You have the Rosoya report, which is a reflection of what the people had wanted in governance. But till today, these reports are gathering dust. No one is even talking about it. I think we still come back to say the same thing, that the people should be given a space to speak. Are we not being hypocritical to ourselves? The people have been silent over time, because I do know that the people have been speaking out. But how much more do we have listening ears? Now, do we begin to look at our own peculiar problems without actually attaching other words? Because Nigeria has a peculiarity as a country. We have our own indigenous weakness. You see instances of having 774 local councils who have different interests. Now, can we begin to compare ourselves with any other country to say this is a template that has worked elsewhere in the world? This is our problem. Do you think, let me go over to the guest. Baris, I know you want to say some few things, but then we have peculiarities in our hands. Do we begin to look at international methodology to deal with indigenous problems that is confronting us right from when we got our independence? Some people have even said our independence is a curse. We shouldn't have even gotten independence at the time we got it. But now this is the reality. We've been like this over the years. There have been so many reports, which is a reflection of what the people had said. Because we had forums, we had public hearings, we have CSOs who came together to say, I'm speaking for the people. And all of these pressure groups, they've dropped their reports, and it's been harmonized at the federal level. It's been presented. But what is the blueprint? Where are the blueprint? Where are the white papers? We keep coming back to say the people needs to talk. Are we saying that the people have not been talking, or we have a system that doesn't listen to the people and is a peculiar problem, not an American problem, not a British problem, but a Nigerian problem? Isn't that what we're dealing with?
No, actually, it was better in the 60s and 70s. We had a system that worked. We had patriotic Nigerians. Then we can ask ourselves, how was it then? When there was transparency, when corruption was so minimal, we can ask ourselves, how was it then? Then we can adopt that pattern. And what we had then, and the government was responsible. What we had then was what they call confederacy. Government, Awolowo did so wonderfully well here in the West. And all of them, it became a kind of competition. When we devolve power to the people, that's the question. To the people, what is the people? The people are in the local government. They are not in Abuja. So when people take up the power, that's one good way. The reports that have been asked, that have been, gathering dust. Let me tell you the truth. Nobody gets into political office to satisfy anybody or any people. People are more conscious of their personal goal and aspirations. It is now when there are reports that are not in accordance with the minds of the person in position, he will never implement it. Take, for example, the structuring issue. President Bola Tinubu has been talking about restructuring long before now, isn't it? He is now in office. we cannot hear him talking about it. Why? Because he might be seeing how this thing will affect his position. When you say devolving power, how can I have this huge power and you want me to remove part of the power to something else? So there's no way people will be in office to satisfy nobody but themselves and their own people. It is therefore the response, I think, go back to the people. The podium, the people, conferences, seminars, writings, social media interjections, interventions, and all kinds. But it has to be strategic. That's a way it can be done. That's a way this thing can be done, and it will have effect. Because where we do not have listening governance, sometimes we don't blame those who are not listening to us. It is maybe because we're not saying the right thing, or we're not saying it the right way. Because they won't listen to you in the first place. But there's a way you will say it that they must listen to you. And we must ask ourselves questions. Where are the areas where we have problems? What is the language we are using? How do we say it in a way that they will be able to listen to us? These are, I think, are important questions that we need to ask.
We have to buy them chocolates for them to listen to us.
Whatever.
Let me go to Barrister.
Yes, you know, I think I want to agree with Prof on his submission with respect to what our guest is saying. In other words, what both parties are saying is that democracy in Nigeria, for instance, is evolving. For instance, look at the case of America. Do you know that when the American state was born, its constitution was a mere 12 pages? A mere 12 pages. And today, through amendments and amendments and amendments, the American system has grown to this system. But my fear is this. The American system must have had a very, very, growth and development oriented legislature to have come up with those fantastic amendments that brought America to the level that we are in. We are in a climb where anything that affects, the well-being of people in authority are declined by our legislature. For instance, a very, very clear, point to buttress my position. Look at the power of recall that is in the Constitution. That would have made it a lot easy for the people to recall non-performing legislators and all that. Yeah. They went into the House and they make it so complicated, like that student loan, that it is almost, it would take a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for members of a constituency to remove their legislator by recall. So my question then is, I don't know if this should be directed to Prof, but
I have a guest in the house.
Yes, our guest can also take it.
Okay.
In the face of that kind of a legislature, do you see the possibility of us evolving the way America has evolved?
Absolutely. In fact, we are really making progress. In all honesty, the progress, epitomized in the possibility of Nigerians to vote Buhari in. Because Jonathan was in place, so we expected that he will use his own power of incumbency to win the election. But let me tell you, the people didn't allow it. The people, when we say people, we all of us seem to undermine the power of the people. And those who hold electoral positions are forced to also undermine the power of the people.
Okay, let me go. Prof, I am asking now, with the kind of legislature. Yes, I'm coming to you. I'm actually coming to you, Prof.
Let me just conclude my expression.
Oh, okay, sir.
And so when the issue of recall, no matter the law as made by the legislature, the people still have the power, even informally, to say no or to say yes. If the people should come up against, when the law came up, for example, and we have all kinds of podium like this, demonstrations, and all noise came up everywhere. that law will not have its place. But the people are not, they are not sensitive enough. We are not listening. We are not following up.
All right, because our time is actually fast spent.
Gbolabo, I think Prof will still have to.
Yes, he will come back to that. Let me quickly read out the numbers, and also I will add one so that he can respond to it. That's our guest and also Prof. The numbers are 070550949 or 080977949. You can also drop your comments on Facebook or YouTube 32FM949 Ibadan. For international audience, +234 90 62,949. Because you mentioned the legislature, and of course this appears to be on the line of my thought here, and this is talking about the Senate president. In the past few days, he's been under public scrutiny for actually giving enjoyment allowances to themselves. And now I know Barrister was talking about how much more can we compare what happens elsewhere and what we have presently as lawmakers.
The question for Prof now is, Prof, because you have played the devil's advocate this morning, can this legislature take us to El Dorado?
Well, let me first of all begin with the issue of listening or not listening. You must look at controversial issues for what they are, controversial issues. It means that we don't have a consensus. And you know, Barrister, that we don't have a consensus around restructuring. There are strong people who oppose any kind of restructuring that you are bringing about. And there are those who are for it. Now, even this economic policy that we are talking about, subsidy, when Okonjo-Iweala came, he said the decision so far made by Tinubu is the correct one. Of course, she's from WTO. She has worked with the World Bank. So there are also strong forces who think that that's the right decision. So let us not assume that everybody agrees that what Tinubu has done in this area is completely wrong. And one area where we have a consensus, which I mentioned, was that there's a consensus in Nigeria today that it should not go to war in Niger. And that is why...
All right, Prof, we have a caller here. Sorry to butt in. Hello, good morning.
Thank you. I'm delighted hearing your guest. I'm John Nzonjoko.
All right.
Thank you, sir. Let me say this, that some years ago, in one of the programs I listened to Ibadan, someone was talking about the intellectual. Professor Niyo Shundari, he appeared in one of the radio programs here in Ibadan. He said, and I quote him, the intellectual has failed the nation. Then, just 8 years after much talk about amalgamation, the Governor General then, Hope Clifford, in 1922, he said that the ability of Nigeria to rule his country. I'm talking of leadership failure now. And Professor Chino Achebe in 1977 said the leadership is our problem. That work was corroborated by Robin Cook, the British Foreign Secretary then, who said Nigeria should be, or should have been, the second richest country in Africa. What holds it back is very poor standard of government. Leadership is Nigerian problem. I'm John Newsom. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. I just quickly want to ask the guest this. I know, Barrister, you're on a line of thought. Can we have you wrap up that as we actually go to touch on this issue before leaving?
Actually, it is actually for Prof.
Prof, rather.
Yes, the
Prof.
guest has answered.
Yes.
Because, we talked about the American system and how the legislature was able to bring it to where we are.
Yes, I was actually talking about Prof, though I mentioned Barrister. Please go ahead, Prof.
Yeah, because you must know that there's a process of change, and sometimes it involves conflict. Because again, if people engage in conflict...
All right, we have another caller here. Sorry, Prof. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Solomon from Asaba.
All right, please go ahead, Solomon.
Our guest and Prof, I think, talked about power going to the people and people making choices on behalf of the leader and leaders. And Barrister talked about how. Please, I want to know how. Okay, in the situation where the leaders are really enjoying that power, and when anybody goes out as the democracy empower the citizens to go out on a protest, even to express their grievances, even when they are not satisfied. And you will see these people, the people that are going out to express their grievances to the government, being arrested or being murdered, killed. And how then how then will people take up the power when those people who are expected to make the situation change or the system change now or start or by making the voice of the people being heard. Being heard. But now they are taking it against the people. How will the people who are the citizens take power from these leaders who are selfish in nature? Thank you.
Thank you so much for dropping that. All right, Prof, we'll come back to you. Maybe you have that as your line of thought. But let me quickly go to our guest. Now, the allowances been given to some of these senators. And now, for many, it was ridiculous for the Senate president to have even said that enjoyment allowances. Later, he changed it and said, I'll send prayers. And it became a cliche among some Nigerians. Now, so does that make any sense? Does that make any sense?
No, it doesn't. And actually, the debate is on already. And all of us are talking about it. But we should go further. There will be meetings everywhere. There will be communicate. There will be rejoinders. Civil society organization must be meeting, media like you must be talking about it.
Should he resign? The likes of Timmy Frank is asking him to resign.
Well, yes,
an activist.
Whatever we want, we expect, we must continue.
In Nigeria.
They have served into our hands.
I don't think we have gotten to that level yet. Although, you see...
there's a starting point.
We can do it, sir. The people have the power. The people can do it, sir.
I do agree. You see, I think it is the most insensitive thing, for the legislature to have done. Especially at this time.
Yeah,
when there is widespread hunger.
Heartlessness.
And it's really sad. It's sad. Prof, are you there?
All right, before we go back to Prof, let's just also look at this 40 trillion naira. Our debt stock in Nigeria is about 40 trillion naira, and with a projection of 77 trillion naira by May this year. Can Tinubu's government tax strategy bail us out of all of this debt problem we have presently in Nigeria? Because this is screaming and alarming.
Yeah.
Doctor, is it possible? Okay, Prof, you want to come in here?
Yeah, I'm saying that he will do whatever he can. I mean, he has set up a committee on tax reforms. He wants to raise more money, and he has also raised some money from fuel subsidy. All of these are designed to increase the revenue available to government so that they can reduce their tendency to borrow and also service the debt that they have accumulated. But he can only do what he can in 4 years. So there's a huge challenge there.
All right, Doctor, do you also share the same thought?
Good morning. Taxes are very powerful.
All right, Doctor, we'll come back to that. Hello, good morning, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is Ibrahim from Apata.
All right, please go ahead, Ibrahim.
Like, I met this program in the middle of somehow. All I can say is that from what you're talking about is like we are forgetting that politicians are Nigeria. Mm-hmm. It's like it's people versus politicians. Mm-hmm. But we have forgotten that Nigerians are the politicians. The guest there talked about patriotism. How patriotic am I? How patriotic are you? Everyone over there. If you assume power as a councillor, I've seen a councillor, a 400 level graduate student, a graduate of university, being a councillor. And after a month, 2 months, he left the community to another place. Is that not part of we, government of the people and by the people and for the people? And for the money shared is a culture we don't know before. Now we know. So it's not just that we are making stories about what we now know. And Prof said something now. He said about the, what they call it, the debt services. He said he's making money, the president is making money from the subsidy now. I think to me, we cannot make money in Nigeria to Nigerian post now. I don't think so. I don't think we are making money because we borrow money from NNPC, from what I heard,
all right,
to service the subsidy. So please, let's look into that.
All right, thank you so much for dropping that in, Ibrahim. And of course, our time is fast spent. Let's take your last shot. Let me go to Prof first of all. Prof, what do we leave with this morning?
Yeah, we must live with the fact that democracy involves continuous struggle. And remember that this struggle is among divided communities, divided along religion, divided along ethnicity, divided in terms of economic status, so many in religion and so on and so forth. So it's usually difficult to build consensus. And when you see we are not moving forward, it's also because it is difficult for us to agree on some of these issues.
All right.
And in areas where we agree, change happens.
All right, Doctor, do you want to go over the tax as your last shot on the program?
Yeah, just, let the conversation continue.
Okay.
That's
exactly.
All right, Barrister.
Yes, thank you. Please permit me. Firstly, on the tax matter that you raised, I think concern now should be on who the incidence of that tax will fall on. It is enough for the poor people. Let the rich bear the brunt now. So having said that, if we agree our problems stem from a systemic failure, as espoused by our wonderful guest this morning, then the most reasonable thing to do is to allow for endogenous resolution of those setbacks, rather than open the gate for exogenous solutions as we experienced in 1998.
I must say thank you so much to you, gentlemen. And I will leave on this note on Aung San Suu Kyi's quote here. He said, "It is not power that corrupts, but fear." And on that note, I say a big thank you for being part of the podium this week. Join us again next week for another interesting edition of the program. We must say a big thank you to our guest in the house, Dr. Bafemi Jegede. He's a senior research fellow, University of Ibadan, of course, University of Beirut, Germany. Thank you so much, sir, for being here. And to our wonderful panelists, I also say a big thank you to Professor for taking our time to do virtually with us this morning, Professor Remi Ayede, and of course, Barrister Yomi Ogunlola. Thank you so much, sir, for being part of this. And to all our listeners and those who watch us live on Facebook and YouTube, we'll say a big thank you. Bye for now.
We can bet that you've never listened to radio like this before.
You can bet that you've never listened to radio like this before. It's the voice of happiness. 32 FM 94.9. Feel better about your life.
32 FM 94.9, the antidote to depression.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Kenny Blacko, and we are here to them. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're your house and